Today, we'll learn how to use Rspec to test our Ruby applications. Rspec is a popular testing framework in Ruby. It allows for test-driven development and even behavior-driven development. So we'll see how we can use this to test our applications. First thing that we'll do is, let's change our directory to where we store our projects. This is Ruby projects. And then let's make a directory. We'll call this athlete. And then now let's just install Rspec by running gem install Rspec. So now that we have Rspec installed here, to begin with it, we can use the initializer that comes with Rspec. So if we change our directory to our athlete folder, we can then say Rspec init. And this has created some files for us. It has created .rspec and has also created a spec helper folder for us. So if we open this up in Visual Studio Code, we can see we have an Rspec file here, and we have a folder with our spec helper. And we can see these are all the configurations for Rspec that we can define, but we'll just leave it as it is this way. So the next thing that we want to do is, for our project here, we'll have an athlete class and an athlete spec where we will test our athlete class. So let's go ahead and create those files. First, in our spec here, we'll simply create a new file and we'll call this athlete spec.rb. So we have our athlete spec, and this is where we'll write all our tests here. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to require Rspec here. And then the next thing that we would like to do is we would say, okay, let us also require relative. And this would be the path to our athlete file, even though we have not created it yet. So we can have that there. We save it, and let's just open up our console and let's run Rspec. And there we go. As we run it right now, you can see an error occurred while loading our spec file. And that is because we did not include, that is because we have yet to create our athlete file. So if we come here and we say new file, or rather let's keep this out here, and this will be our new file. I'll have it as athletes.rb, and if we save this here and we run Rspec once more, there we go. We can see all our errors have disappeared. So we have 0 examples and 0 failures now. So for our athlete class, there are a few things that our athlete would have. One, our athlete to have a name, age, the sport, and some experience level. So these are the things that we will initially set up to test. So to begin with Rspec, we begin by writing a description. So what we can say is Rspec.describe, and here we're talking about describing the class. So it can be describe athlete. So depending on what the class, if it was person, if it was object or anything, that will be what we'll have here. So say athlete do. And so what we can do is we can use a form of setup. So we can say let and we'll say athlete here. This will be the name of the, you can think of this as a variable that we'll be using throughout our test. Instead of always having to define a new instance of athlete, we can define it here and use it throughout our test. So if we say let athlete be athlete.new, and we'll just leave it at this for now. So what we want to have here is we want to be able to test our name. We want this to have a name. So what we can say is this is our first test, should have a name, and then we can say we want to expect our athlete dot name to equal, let's say, John. So we can go ahead and save this, and if we open up our terminal once more and we run Rspec, you can see we have some errors here. You can see athlete.name, you can see failure error here, and it says name error on initialized constant athlete, describe athlete. So the first thing that we can do here is we can add our name John here in our setup. So if we run Rspec once more, you can still see we still have the same error here, uninitialized constant athlete. So let's go ahead and define our athlete in our athlete file. So we can say class athlete. We save it and let's run our test once more. And there we go. You can see we have a different error now. Wrong number of arguments given. We gave 1 and is expecting 0. So let's update this here. We can simply add our attribute accessor for name, and then we can initialize our class here. So what we want to do is we can add our attribute for name here. So now that we have done that, let's run our Rspec test once more, and there we go. We have 1 example passing and 0 failures. So the next thing that we want to do is we also want to have age here. So let's simply copy this because the test is quite similar, and then we should say it should have an age, and we'll expect age to be, we expect our age to be a number, so let's set the age to be 23. If we save this, or rather if we save that and we come to our console and we run Rspec, we see we have 2 examples and 1 failure. Undefined method age here. So if we come up here and we, in our setup, we give our age here, and then if we run this once more, we still have our same error of wrong number of arguments given. So we can head back here, we can add our age to our accessor, and then we can add our age here to our initializer. So we save this and we run Rspec once more, and we can see it's passing still. So far we have been using the equal to methods from Rspec. So what is that? What is equal to doing? It is actually comparing these values here. They should be equal to each other. If not, the test would fail. If we change this to something else and we run this, there we go. We can see we have 2 examples with 1 failure. So it's checking the equality of them. And the next thing that we want to have, we want our athlete to have a sport. So we can do the same thing again. we can simply copy this and paste it out again, and it should have a sport. Let's add that here, and we can change this to sport and let it be equal to basketball. So we can add it here to our setup, and then if we run Rspec, you can see athlete should have an age. We have 3 examples and 3 failures here. So let's see what it says. Run number of arguments given 3, expected 2. So let's head back here, and what we can do is we can add sport here and simply add our sport is equal to sport. And if you run Rspec once more, you can see 3 examples with 1 failure. Expect athlete of sports to equal basketball. And if we add our sport to our attribute accessor, there we go. Everything is running up and fine now. So the final thing that we want our athlete to have here is experience. And this experience will just be in form of years. So you should have experience. And let's just change this to 3. And we'll add this to be experience here. So we save it. And there we go. We have 4 examples with 1 failure. So we can add our experience here. 3. We run our test. We can see 4 examples, 4 failures. We go ahead and do the same thing once more with our experience. And once we have done this, it seems my spelling is not correct. The experience is equal to experience. If we save this and we run it, there we go. We have 4 examples and 0 failures. So now let's think about some methods that we want our athlete to have. Well, let us see if our athlete is, let's define a method to see if our athlete is eligible for a competition. So for that, we want the age for our athlete to be eligible for a competition. His age should be greater than or equal to 18. So let's say it should be eligible for competition. So once we do that, we can say, let's not forget our block here. Then we will expect our athlete that's eligible for competition, and this is a new one here. This will be to be truthy. So if we, this is the name of the method here that we have yet to define. So if we save this and we run Rspec, there we go. We have 5 examples and 1 failure. Athlete should be eligible for competition. So let's go ahead, and it says undefined method here. So let's go ahead and define that method. We head back to athlete, and we can say def eligible for competition, and we simply want to say if age is greater than or equal to 18, then our athlete is eligible for competition. So if we go ahead and rerun Rspec once more, there we go. Our test is passing now. We have 5 passing tests now. So we've looked at equal to, we've looked at to be truthy. We could do the opposite too. We could do, if we wanted it to be, if we change this to be falsy, and we ran this, you can see we have a failure. So falsy is another test that is a direct opposite of truthy. Well, for this test, we'll use truthy. So what we want to do is let's add a method that allows us to increase the experience that an athlete has. So it's if we say it increases experience of athlete, or let's just say increases experience, and then we can say do, if we call athlete the increase experience and we want to be able to add a number to the experience years. So once we do that, I will say expect athlete dot experience. What experience did we give it? We gave it 3. So we expect this to be equal to 5. So if we save this and we run our test, you can see undefined local variable or method athlete. So I misspelled athlete here. So we save this and we run Rspec once more. And then we see now we have undefined method increase experience. So let's go ahead and define our method. So we can say def increase experience, and this would take a parameter of years, and all we want to do is we want to say experience plus equal years. So we simply want to add the years to our experience. So if you run this once more, we have 6 passing tests now. So let's now add another method where an athlete has a personal record. So our athlete will have a personal record that they can update at any time. So if we say it sets a valid personal record, and then we can say expect athlete dot set personal record, let's just say 100, and here we'll say to include, and this is another one that we can use. You can say new personal record set, let's say 100 meters. So if we save this and we run Rspec, we have 0 examples, 0 failures. Undefined method it's for, oh, I wrote this in the wrong file actually. So we copy this out and we head this back to athlete.spec. So we paste this in and we run Rspec. So we have 7 examples. Undefined method set personal record. So let's go ahead and define this. So what we want to do is we want to define this in our athlete file. So you can see def set personal record, and we'll just simply say, let's just copy this, and we have new personal record set to, and we'll change this to record here. So if we save this and we run Rspec, and we can see set to include, and this should actually be we need to actually close this here properly. So if we run this once more, there we go. We have 7 examples passed in and 0 failures. So we've looked at the equal to, we've looked at include, we've looked at be truthy and be falsy to. So if we wanted to have our own custom error, we could do that too. So if we define a new test here and say, and we want to, if there's an invalid personal record, if the number is negative, we don't want that to happen. We don't want to accept that. So if we say it raises error for invalid personal record, then we can say expect, and here we're using curly braces. We could use curly braces all around. So we can say athlete dot set personal record. If we give this a negative value like -100 or -19, and we want to raise an error here, so we'll say argument error, and we'll say invalid record value. So we save this and we open up Rspec and we run this, and we can see athlete raises an error for invalid personal record. So we have 8 failures and 8 examples and 1 failure. So let's go ahead and update our athlete file. All we have to do is come here and we'll update our method. We'll simply say raise argument error in, how exactly do we write it? And let's copy it. Invalid record value if record is less than 0. So if we run this, we have 8 examples now, 8 passing tests now. So this is an introduction of how we can use Rspec to test our files in Ruby.